They're not going to have a pension anymore. They're going to have a 401k. It's just really, really a gross thing that's happening at the University of Alabama.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Bill Jackson here with you. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your time today, every single day. Now, Jacob, the Iranian nuclear employees, I'm guessing they would like to talk about their workplace conditions. What do you think?
I'm sure they would. You mentioned this to me yesterday, and I looked a little bit because I had a hunch about the position of unions in Iranian society, knowing a little bit about the history there, and it is true that there were strong unions in Iran before the CIA toppled, the democratically elected government, and they were severely repressed under the Shah, and even more under the after the Islamic Revolution. So yeah, I'm sure that the nuclear workers over there, just like the rest of the workers in Iran, looks like, could use a strong, independent union movement.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that as soon as their government topples, but as of right now, it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. It looks like they're trying to hang on for dear life, but we'll follow that story as it breaks. Now, let's bring it a little more closer to home. There was an interesting story the other day in the, I think it was AL.com had it, and they had a story where they discussed how UNA employees were basically saying, okay, we've had enough of this. We're going to go ahead and call this a day and quit because they changed up how their grounds maintenance is going to be done. And you had mentioned this to me in a text we had talked back and forth yesterday. One of the reasons is I guess they wanted to get away from the unionized grounds crew. What happened there, and how did this go down?
Well, no, that's not true. The grounds crew, when they were state employees under Alabama, there's not a real right to have a union, and certainly no right to collective bargaining, right? I mean, even the teachers who have a strong, they have a strong association, but it's more of a professional lobby, really, than a union in the traditional sense. The teachers don't have collective bargaining agreements or anything like that. They don't have real grievance procedures. I mean, they have something like meet and confer and things like this, and there are kind of simulations of those sorts of things, but it's not anywhere near the same sort of protections that, a Teamster at UPS might have, or like a federal employee, has or used to have with their contracts. And so really what it seems to me, and so because there was no union in it, and especially the state, the state employees, there is an Alabama State Employees Association, but they are, really nothing at all.
Right. I mean, we're splitting hairs here. I think that, there is that's sort of the argument that I hear all the time. Well, the teachers don't even have a union; they just have an association. I mean, sure, but they use union as sort of the common vernacular on that. So, what happened here? Why did UNA decide to do this?
Well, the UNA has still not said why they have decided to do this, but what happened is that there was about 40 people in their environmental service department, which is more or less the groundkeepers, folks who keep the campus clean, and they have decided to privatize that function and give that work as a contract to a company called SSC, which is owned by BlackRock. And basically because they say, like, oh, well, maybe SSC can do it. The theory is when universities do things like this, that the company can do it cheaper. And, well, there's real questions about whether or not that can actually happen because, there's been journalism and research that has come out about SSC and their high turnover and the cost of the contracts that don't actually end up saving over time. But that's the theory. And the way that they do that is by underpaying the workers and by making the working conditions worse. And so what the situation that they had before the privatization, which has now gone through, is the workers were already only making between $10 and $11 an hour, right? And so then the obvious question is, well, how do you make that worse? That seems pretty bad. But they had, the other things that come along with being a state employee, right? I mean, they didn't have a union, really in the traditional sense, but they had a pension, they had good time off. They had things like that. They had some level of security as a state employee. And so and there were people who had worked there for years who had kind of made that bargain, right? Like, I'm going to make $10 or $11 an hour, but I'm going to get super cheap healthcare. I'm going to have a pension, all of this kind of stuff. And so when they transferred over, they got a raise to $12 an hour, but they lost all of their banked, vacation days. There were some people who had hundreds of hours of vacation time that was banked, and they lost all of it immediately. And now they are only going to accrue 5 vacation days per year. They're going to have to work on holidays for straight time. They're not even going to be giving folks who work on holidays like time and a half or double time, like you see in a lot of workplaces. Straight time on holidays going to be mandatory. If you don't work, you're going to get points. If you get 7 points, you'll be fired. They're not going to have a pension anymore. They're going to have a 401k. I mean, it's just really, really a gross thing that's happening at the University of Alabama. And so there is a union that operates sort of like the AEA for campus employees. Like I said, they don't have contracts or anything, but there is the United Campus Workers of Alabama, and they've put out an open letter about this, detailing, a lot of this stuff that I've talked about. And you could Google that if folks are interested. You can go to Facebook and find their Facebook page and put that and look at their open letter. But it is really sort of amazing that the University of Alabama has done this. And at the same time as, the president is getting paid $49,000 per month.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
And, this is a decision that they have decided to go ahead and make.
Okay, let's back up for a second. The president getting paid $49,000 per month is not really relevant to what they pay the grounds crew. That's number one. Number two, when they made this decision, was there any announcement ahead of time? I mean, or did this
No,
surprise
they gave
them?
the workers days to decide whether or not they wanted to stay with the company.
And a lot of them, and this is from some of the reporting, just basically said, enough, we're done.
Yeah,
we're not
exactly. And that's like reasonable, right? I mean, if you are, if you're, $10 to $11 an hour is just, that is frankly, kind of gross. But if you're, there's at least something there. If you're going to say, well, you'll have a pension, you can get a really good amount of time off, you'll get really cheap health care, but we're only going to pay you $10 or $11 an hour. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's a decision somebody can make. $10 or $12 an hour with none of that, and you're going to steal the time that I earned previously? Like I said to you, the only explanation that I could have is like demonic possession.
I don't know if it's demonic possession. I think it is more likely a cost-cutting deal, and they are cutting to the bone here. So how much money does the school save? That's the argument. Can they tell you how much money the school saves?
No, they've not said anything like that. But it can't be much, right? You're talking about 40 employees, I think, on the high end. And so I can't imagine that it's going to be a whole lot of money. But I think the concern is, the concern is with those employees, those individuals. But the United Campus Workers in their open letter, they alluded to the concern that this is kind of the opening tranche in a bigger privatization play on the campus. Maybe they're going to convert more departments.
I'm kind of shocked that they could just do away with state employees this easily. And this seems like a bit of this is kind of surprising to me that they're able to do that. Are you surprised by that?
No, because I'm not aware of super strong, worker protections in Alabama's law. I mean, it's just not, the teachers have more than most state employees, but state employees generally, they don't have just a whole lot of protections. I mean, they don't even, state employees, including teachers, don't even have OSHA protections.
It's interesting. Well, didn't they pass a law here that did protect them if they were hurt on the job?
They offered them like a workers' comp sort of thing, which is good, which was a really great. I mean, the last session was like really good for teachers, I think, even though they didn't get a general wage increase, but I think some localities are doing that. Madison County, I know, gave their teachers a raise, but they got paid sick leave and they got this workers' comp thing. But it's still not. In the private sector, you have like a right to a safe working environment, and you can contact OSHA if you feel like your rights are violated, and there's rules and regulations and stuff like that. And that doesn't exist for public sector employees in Alabama for state and municipal.
So what's
workers.
the recourse here? What's going to happen here? What do you think?
The recourse is public pressure, right? I mean, and that's the recourse that the teachers have, and so. The United Campus Workers, I think, is going to be trying to ramp up the pressure on the University of Alabama, probably going to be trying to reach out to leaders in the community to get the University of North Alabama to reverse this decision and to not go forward on any pending decisions on other other department privatization plans that they may or may not have. But that is the only recourse right now. But I mean, that sort of thing can work. The United Campus Workers of Alabama was able to get like a 15% wage increase for university employees at Jacksonville State by this sort of thing. And so, they can be an effective organization. They have members at the University of North Alabama. And so I think that's what they're going to do.
Has there been any movement on that particular issue? I mean, has there been any movement on sort of rescinding this?
Not yet, because this is pretty new. The decision was made a couple of weeks ago. The open letter came out on Friday from United Campus Workers. So no response at all.
All right,
from the university.
We're out of time on this, but I'll just say this. I think at minimum, the days that they've banked, they should get back the benefit that they have had. That at minimum should be what is done, and I hope there's some sort of recollection there. So thank you very much to Jacob Morrison for joining us and bringing this to light. I thought this was a pretty interesting story. Thank you so much to him for being here. We appreciate it.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.